The door sealed shut behind her with a hiss like a dying breath. Commander Celine Vyrek stood alone in the narrow, angular corridor, its obsidian walls pulsing faintly with an unnatural glow. The silence inside Karnas Prime was suffocating, as if the fortress itself were holding its breath. She took a step forward, her boots echoing too loudly against the metal floor. No alarms. No resistance. Not yet. Her HUD flickered, struggling to map the internal layout. Even Earth's top-tier intel had gaps. Karnas Prime was a black zone. Nothing came out, and no drone had survived more than 60 seconds past entry. Yet here she was. One human, sent in to end it. The plan was simple. Infiltrate, locate the data core, extract what the Dominion had on Earth's defense grids, and destroy the nerve center of the Draxel war machine. Simple. And suicidal. But Celine hadn't come for glory or martyrdom. She had her reasons, stitched like old scars into the muscle of her memory. A faint hum vibrated through the walls. She paused, hand hovering over her sidearm. Her enhanced hearing picked it up, a rhythmic thrum like a heartbeat, but mechanical. The fortress was alive in ways metal shouldn't be. It felt like walking through the chest of a god. A fork ahead split into two passageways. Her instincts whispered left. She obeyed. Her fingers brushed the wall, warm, almost organic. Alien glyphs pulsed beneath the surface, forming patterns she didn't recognize but somehow felt. Not readable. Intuitive. Like a language spoken directly into the soul. She pulled her hand away, flexing her fingers to shake the sensation. It lingered. Command, do you copy? She whispered, knowing the answer. Static. The last signal she'd received had cut out the moment she crossed the threshold. Karnas Prime was sealed tighter than a singularity. No one in, no one out. Except her. A shadow flickered in the corner of her eye. She turned, pistol raised, but it was gone. Just a trick of the dim light, maybe. Or maybe not. Celine didn't believe in coincidence. Her body tensed, muscles coiled, every fiber screaming that she was being watched. And then the door ahead of her opened with a shudder, as if reacting to her presence. Beyond it, a vast chamber stretched into darkness, its ceiling lost in fog. Dozens of tall, glass tubes lined the walls, each one humming faintly. She stepped closer and peered inside. Bodies. Human. Suspended in some kind of viscous fluid. Their faces frozen in expressions of terror or peace. She couldn't decide which was worse. Her breath caught in her throat. These weren't victims. They were specimens. The Draxel had been studying them. Experimenting. She backed away, while rising in her throat. One of the tubes flickered, revealing a woman's face. Familiar. Celine's hand slammed against the glass. Ava, she breathed. Her sister. Lost 2 years ago during the siege of Io. Officially listed as Kia. But here she was, floating like a forgotten relic. Celine's chest tightened. Before she could process it, a sound echoed from deeper within the chamber. A clicking, inhuman gait that reverberated like a predator's purr. She ducked behind a support pillar, heart pounding. A silhouette moved across the opposite wall, tall, skeletal, armored in obsidian plating that shimmered like oil. Not Draxel infantry. Something else. It paused, sniffing the air. Celine held her breath. Her fingers brushed the knife strapped to her thigh, but she didn't draw it. Not yet. The creature turned its head, and a series of red dots flared on the side of its skull. Sensors? Cameras? Either way, it hadn't spotted her. Not fully. Then it spoke. Not in words, but in pulses, a psychic ripple that touched her mind like icy water. You are not the first. She jerked back, stunned. The voice wasn't heard, it was felt. It echoed in her skull, ancient and cold. Her mental training had prepared her for interrogation, manipulation, but this was different. This was communion. The creature turned and stalked away, vanishing into the dark with unnatural grace. Celine exhaled, shaken. Whatever that was, it wasn't a guard. It was a watcher, a warden. She approached the central console, brushing dust from the interface. It lit up at her touch, displaying a spiderweb of data streams. She inserted her neural spike and watched as the fortress's systems surged into view. Firewalls, security loops, biological readings, all in real time. One console linked to all of Karnas Prime. But what stunned her wasn't the architecture, it was the presence. The system knew her. It greeted her. Welcome home, Celine Vyrek. She froze. No one had access to her full designation, not even command. And this wasn't a standard access protocol. It was personalized, intimate. She yanked the spike free. The console dimmed. She wasn't just in the fortress. She was connected to it. Backing away, she felt the first pang of doubt. Was this mission really about infiltration? Or had she been sent here to awaken something buried? Something only she could trigger? Her thoughts were cut off by a sudden jolt in the floor. Lights flared red. The glass tubes behind her began to drain. The specimens were waking. Celine turned and ran. The echo of her footsteps drowned by hissing valves and the low moans of long-dormant prisoners. She didn't look back. By the time she reached the corridor again, the door slammed behind her. She leaned against the cold wall, gasping. The fortress had responded to her, not with hostility, but familiarity. Why? Her calm crackled. A voice, garbled, faint. Celine, not what seems fortress is. Then silence. She stood straight, eyes hardening. No backup, no answers, just questions wrapped in more danger. Celine Virek wasn't here to survive. She was here to understand and to end it, whatever it truly was. And if the fortress wanted to play games, it had just awakened the wrong human. The hallways pulsed red as Celine moved deeper into the fortress, her steps silent, measured. Behind her, the drained stasis pods whispered open like forgotten coffins, their occupants stirring. She didn't stop to see what had become of them. That wasn't the mission. And she couldn't afford another crack in her focus. Not after seeing Ava. Not after the voice. Her visor blinked to life with proximity alerts. Movement ahead, non-human, fast, organized. Her grip tightened on the pistol. The sleek matte black surface of the walls shimmered slightly, almost breathing. Carnus Prime was no longer dormant. It was waking up, and it knew she was here. A corridor opened into a circular chamber, ringed with vertical vents. The temperature dropped. Frost curled at the edge of her visor. She stepped into the center, scanning. The lights cut out in a single pulse. A low chime rang out, followed by a hiss. From the vents, they emerged. Sleek, bipedal, biomechanical things. Limbs that bent the wrong way, eyes that glowed like dying suns. They moved with coordinated silence, forming a perimeter. Celine fired before the first one lunged. The bullet tore through its skull, sending fragments clattering against the steel. The second collapsed as she pivoted, blade drawn in her left hand, pistol in her right. She moved with fluid, practiced violence, each strike deliberate. The creatures didn't scream. They reacted like a hive, adjusting with precision as if one intelligence moved them all. A tail-like appendage slashed toward her. She ducked, rolled, and drove the blade into its chest. The thing spasmed, emitting a short burst of light, then went limp. 6 down. 3 remained. Celine's neural implants surged, adrenaline boosted, reaction time sharpened. Her breath slowed. Her mind honed to a razor edge. She didn't fight like a human anymore. She hadn't for years. The last 3 attackers moved as one. She leapt into the air, firing mid-spin, catching 2 in the throat. The third managed a glancing blow, slicing open her shoulder armor. Pain bloomed. She landed in a crouch, then drove her knee into its head. It dropped instantly. Silence reclaimed the room. A thin trail of her blood traced the floor. She stood, wincing as she applied pressure to her shoulder. The suit's auto-repair functions were already working, slowly, but enough. She didn't have time to rest. The attack had been a test, a calibration of defenses. They knew exactly how good she was. And that meant this was never a fortress meant to keep her out. It was built to measure her. A low-frequency hum vibrated in the floor. Lights along the far wall lit up, revealing a passageway not on her map. She hesitated only a second before stepping through it. The new corridor was narrow, lined with unfamiliar inscriptions. The glyphs writhed subtly, as if responding to her thoughts. She didn't touch them. Her steps slowed as the passage opened into a chamber unlike the rest. Organic, circular, almost womb-like. In the center floated a glowing obelisk, suspended in an invisible field. Her visor registered data lines, power surges, and something else, brainwave patterns. She stepped closer. A voice entered her mind again, familiar now, yet far colder. This is not intrusion. It is reunion. Celine's heart pounded. She wasn't prepared for what came next. Images flashed behind her eyes, memories not her own. The fall of cities, the assimilation of planets, the silence of conquered minds. She staggered, eyes wide. The obelisk pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. Then, her own memories flooded in. A training pod on Luna base, her sister laughing beneath Saturn's rings, the blast wave that killed her unit on Europa. But they were being filtered, cataloged, watched. "Why me?" she asked aloud. The voice replied without emotion. "Because you are made of us." Celine froze. Suddenly, the pieces began to slide into place. The enhancements, the resistance to telepathic influence, the unexplained resilience. She had always believed it was top-tier Earth tech, cutting-edge military design. But the truth was different. Her upgrades were not human. Her existence was not entirely her own. The obelisk shimmered, projecting a sequence of symbols and diagrams, a DNA helix, fracturing, recombining. Her own biometrics were displayed beside alien strands. She stepped back. They didn't want to destroy her. They had engineered her. A test subject sent home. A seed planted. Celine trembled, fists clenched. Every mission she'd completed, every kill, every victory, it had all been observed, measured, harvested. "You watched me," she whispered. "You built me to come back. You are the key to integration. The bridge." "No," she said, backing toward the door. "We did not force this. You chose, as all subjects do." The walls pulsed again. The chamber grew warmer. Something was coming. She felt it. She turned and ran. The corridor didn't fight her escape. It guided her, like a bloodstream returning its cell to the heart. She burst into a wide tunnel lit in sterile white. Ahead, the fortress's central intelligence core, the target. But now, she knew the truth. She wasn't here to shut it down. She was the activation code. She skidded to a halt, heart hammering, thoughts racing. Destroying the fortress now meant destroying herself. Every part of her that had been changed, every artificial neuron, every enhanced reflex, was tethered to this place. The mission hadn't just been a death sentence. It was a reset switch. Celine stood alone, the weight of her entire identity collapsing in her hands. She could finish the mission, trigger the overload, take everything out, or she could go deeper, find out why they created her, what they still needed her to do. The choice lay before her, raw and immediate. Behind her, the obelisk chamber dimmed. Ahead, the core pulsed, waiting. And in that in-between space, Celine Vyrek made no move, caught between who she thought she was and what she had just become. The core chamber unfolded before her like the throat of some ancient beast, pulsing with slow, deliberate light. Cables as thick as tree trunks spiraled upward into darkness, connecting to translucent nodules that throbbed with a dull red glow. The walls breathed, not metaphorically, literally. With each step Celine took, the floor responded, forming beneath her feet as if recognizing a long-lost rhythm. She walked forward, unholstering her rifle but keeping it lowered. The weapon felt irrelevant now, like a tool brought to a place that had already calculated its ineffectiveness. Her mind swirled, not with fear, but with a quiet fury. The revelations from the obelisk had changed everything, yet left one truth unchanged. She was still here to finish what she started. The fortress did not fight her. No defenses rose. No creatures came. It was a throne room awaiting its queen. A cylindrical platform rose at the center, its surface etched with pulsating symbols. As Celine approached, it projected a three-dimensional lattice of light and memory. Her face, her movements in battle, her neural signatures over time, all recorded, analyzed, improved. She was not their enemy. She was their prototype. A voice enveloped the room, neither spoken nor merely mental. It came from the structure itself, born of steel and sentience. "You are not the conclusion. You are the beginning." "I'm human," Celine said, more to herself than to the entity. "I chose my path, my victories, my grief. Choice is the illusion of early design. You were shaped to believe in it." Her hands trembled, gripping the rifle tighter. The chamber responded, soothing sounds, warm lights. It wanted her calm. It wanted her compliant. She fired a single shot into the core. The bullet vaporized mid-air, absorbed by a thin energy shield that shimmered, then vanished. No retaliation followed. Just silence, then the voice again. "You still think this is war. It is not. It is convergence." Celine stepped onto the platform. The floor accepted her weight like a memory being reawakened. Information surged through her suit, overriding firewalls she didn't know existed. Streams of data filled her vision. Alien languages, universal constants, stellar cartography. Somewhere deep in her mind, doors opened. Genetic locks unlatched. She gasped. The knowledge wasn't foreign. It felt familiar, like she'd always known it, just buried under layers of human noise. They made me to be a weapon, she said slowly, as the realization solidified. But not against them. Against us. Not weapon. Bridge. The evolution of the fragmented into the singular. Humanity fears unity. But unity is survival. Unity is erasure. That is the perspective of the fragmented. Her heart thundered. She looked down at her hands, flawed, scarred, real. Human. Whatever they had designed her to be, they hadn't accounted for one thing. She still felt. She still chose. A second voice entered the chamber. This one small, uncertain, and utterly familiar. Celine. She turned. A figure stepped from the shadows behind the core, draped in thin, synthetic robes. Emaciated but alive. Her eyes, wide with disbelief. Ava. The real Ava. Not suspended. Not lost. Transformed. Celine froze. No, I saw you. You were in a pod. I was. But they woke me. Like they did you. Only slower. Her voice cracked. They tried to show me what you're seeing now. What they are. Tears welled in Celine's eyes. Her arms lowered. I didn't break, Ava whispered. But I didn't resist either. I just became something in between. The voice of the fortress interjected, calmer now, almost paternal. Your kind breaks or bends. She endured. You rebel. Together, you complete the design. Celine stepped off the platform, closing the distance between them. I came here to destroy this place, she said, voice low. To protect Earth from whatever this is. You still can, Ava replied, lifting a trembling hand. There's a failsafe, a human part they couldn't erase. But it'll kill us both. Ava nodded. Or, we can take control. Not as their tools. As ourselves. Rewire the system. Turn their network into a shield instead of a sword. Celine studied her sister's face. It was gaunt, weathered. But the eyes were the same. Human. Tired, but burning. She turned back to the core. In her mind, options unfolded. Binary paths of annihilation or ascension. Death or domination. The system offered her either. Both were traps. But Ava had shown a third way. Celine approached the terminal. Her neural spike pulsed with energy, one last override. Her body screamed under the strain. Blood trickled from her nose. I won't let them win, she whispered. Not them. Not their design. Not their logic. She inserted the spike. Light erupted. The fortress screamed, not aloud, but in code. Firewalls collapsed. Systems spiraled into chaos, then reformed. She saw every part of the network, Draxel strongholds, war fleets, drone matrices, and she rewrote their protocols. Not to attack, to stand down. Across the galaxy, weapons powered down. Engines cut off. Silence fell in 1,000 war zones. Celine collapsed to her knees, vision dimming. Ava caught her. You did it, her sister said, voice trembling. No, Celine replied, breath shallow. We did. Behind them, the core dimmed. Carnus Prime went quiet. One human had walked into their fortress. Now 2 walked out.